こんにちは。今日は Frequency Adverbs を勉強しましょう。Today we'll talk about special words called frequency adverbs. These words help us say how often something happens. I picked 6 important ones for us to learn today. We'll also look at some other words that we need for today's lesson. So let's take a look. These first 6 words are frequency adverbs to show frequency. いつも always, 大抵 usually, よく often, 時々 sometimes, あまり not very often, 全然 not at all. This word とても means very and may be followed by this frequency word よく、とてもよく to express very frequently. And you probably know these nouns, but let's go over お茶 tea, お昼ご飯 lunch, 運動 this is probably a new word for us, exercise, 宿題 is homework. Frequency adverbs shows that regularity of an action, illustrating whether it occurs with high or low frequency. It shows how often you do something or how infrequently you do something. Do you do that sometimes or not very much? This chart ranks Japanese frequency adverbs from most often to least often. The word at the top means something happens a lot, like always. As you move downwards the chart, each word means things happen less and less. The word at the bottom means something hardly happens at all. それでは一緒に読みましょう。Please repeat after me. いつも、いつも、大抵、大抵、よく、よく、時々、時々、あまり、あまり、全然、全然。いいですね。Let's learn how to use frequency words in sentences. You might wonder where exactly these words should be placed. Well, just like the word order in a Japanese sentence, the position of the frequency word can be relatively flexible. By the way, I've already discussed the word order in a Japanese sentence in episode number 28, so feel free to revisit that episode for a refresher on particles and word order. The position of the frequency word can be relatively flexible, and you can have some options. Commonly, you might place them right after the topic of the sentence. However, they can also be placed after words indicating a place or direct object. Another common placement is just before the verb. Let's try putting the frequency word right after the topic and then say, Alisa always drinks coffee at home. そうです。アリサさんはいつも always うちでコーヒーを飲みます。One thing you need to pay attention is that these frequency words don't need any particles. So if you say アリサさんはいつもに or いつもで that is grammatically wrong. Let's use different frequency word. How do you say, Alisa sometimes drinks coffee at the cafe. アリサさんは時々カフェでコーヒーを飲みます。Let's create another sentence. How do you say, I usually go to school at 8 o'clock? And that sentence should be 私は大抵8時に大学に行きます。And of course, you don't need any particles after this frequency word, 大抵. Let's look at these two adverbs that describe how rarely an activity or event occurs. When using these adverbs, あまり, not very often, and 全然, not at all, the sentence should be negative, ending with ません. If you want to say a sentence like, I don't eat breakfast at all, then you would say, 私は全然朝ごはんを食べません. You have to end the sentence with negatives. Let's spell those words. 私は全然朝ごはんを食べません. How about this sentence? I don't eat breakfast very much. Not very much. You have to have a negative sentence at the end. So your sentence should look like that. 私は朝ごはんをあまり食べません. いいですね。Let's practice more. Let's talk about Haru-san. Haru-san, she doesn't watch TV at all. How would you say that? Haru-san は全然テレビを見ません. 全然 takes negative sentence. Let's create a sentence that includes the destination location. I want you to include all of these information and then say a sentence in Japanese. Her name is Yumi. はい、言ってください。ユミさんはよく私の家に来ます。できましたか？ Okay, this time let's include the location of the action. Her name is Kim. And then please include all of this information into your sentence. 言ってください。キムさんは時々レストランでお昼ご飯を食べます。いいですね。Sometimes you want to ask questions about frequency, and if that's the case, you use frequency word followed by a question marker か. So let's take a look at this statement. レストランに行きます. And you want to know how often this person goes to the restaurant. So if that's the case, you say よく how often レストランに行きますか? How often do you go to the restaurant? And this is a yes/no question. You can answer はい、よくレストランに行きます. Or you can say いいえ、あまりレストランに行きません. You can also use other frequency words to ask about frequency. For instance, if you notice someone not eating much sushi, you might ask, あまり魚を食べませんか? Which means, don't you eat fish very often? Let's practice asking about frequency using this frequency word, よく. Well, let's ask Kim how often she eats lunch at the restaurant. The question sentence will be キムさんはよくレストランでお昼ご飯を食べますか？そうです。And we all know that she sometimes does it. はい。時々レストランでお昼ご飯を食べます。Let's ask about Ken. How often he does his homework at the library? How do you ask that question? The question sentence will be ケンさんはよく図書館で宿題をしますか？ And if he does his homework usually at the library, then how do you respond? はい、ケンさんは大抵図書館で宿題をします。そうです。それでは答えてください。Please answer my questions based on your own experience. 1番 No.1 よく本を読みますか？あなたはよく本を読みますか？ Okay, and this is my answer. いいえ、あまり本を読みません。2番 No.2 よく運動しますか？あなたはよく運動しますか？運動 means exercise. Okay, my answer. はい、時々運動します。Alright. 3番。いつも YouTube を見ますか？あなたはいつも YouTube を見ますか？ And this is my answer. はい、とてもよく very often YouTube を見ます。大抵もよ先生の YouTube を見ます。I hope you do the same. And that's a wrap on today's lesson about Japanese frequency adverbs. With these phrases in your toolkit, now you are equipped to tell your friends how often you play games or how often you tune into Moyo Sensei's YouTube videos. Well, keep practicing and don't hesitate to come back to this video if you need a quick review. Happy learning, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in my next episode. それではまた。さようなら。